Hi, my name is Jessica and I'll be your teacher. Welcome to Media and Society. Today we'll explore the role of fake news in modern media. We'll discuss practical ways to identify fake news and dive into academic perspectives, including media studies, phenomenology, and affect theory, to understand its impact on society. By the end of this lesson, you'll also have critical questions to think about how fake news influences the world around us. So, what exactly is fake news? Fake news refers to misinformation or false stories presented as legitimate news, often with the intent to deceive. It's spread across various platforms, particularly through social media, and is designed to manipulate readers by playing on emotions and biases. So you see, it often looks like an actual news article, but it's actually, in this case, in the example shown here, fake news, obviously. So let's move on. How can we identify fake news when we encounter it? Here are a few key tips. Check the source. Is it from a reliable news outlet? Look for sensational language. Fake news often uses dramatic wording to grab attention and get your emotions going. And also, verify any claims. Are other credible sources reporting the same information? Watch out for clickbait. If the headline seems too outrageous, it might be fake news. And then check the date. Sometimes old news is recycled as current news to create confusion. Okay, class. Now that we know how to identify fake news when we see it, let's take a look at a news article and see if we can identify whether this is fake news or not. One good way to do that is to what? That's right. We would always check the source. Is this source a reliable news outlet? This source here is The Onion. And if we were to go to The Onion's About page, we would understand that The Onion is a known satire news source that's been around for a number of years. And they often parody what look like real news articles to make statements about social situations or social events, current events. So that's one way we can look at this article. What is another way we can look at this article, class? That's right. We should also look for sensational language. Fake news often uses that dramatic wording, as I mentioned earlier, to get your attention and to get your emotions going. So, what about this is emotional or sensational kind of language? Yes, that's correct. There is not really a situation that I've ever heard of where a man would get a triple bypass reversed after deciding he wanted to have a third heart attack. That premise is ridiculous. So we know that this is kind of a ridiculous satirical news article. We probably wouldn't have to go further onto this list to know by now that this is fake news. But what is one more way that we could look to see how this might be fake news? That's right. We want to check the date. One other way to check to see if this is fake news is to check the date. This one was published recently, is September 10th, 2024. As of this recording, September 18th, 2024. It's a recent article. Some articles, if I recall from The Onion, often do get recycled, so sometimes their date is updated. Those are examples of how you would look at a news article. The Onion is a bit satirical and a parody of real news, but it gives us some good practice to identify fake news in the form of news articles. Now, let's take a moment to look at this from a more academic angle. When we study media in fields like media studies or critical studies, we explore how media shapes the way we see the world. Fake news can distort this perception, which is why it's important to analyze media with a critical eye. In critical studies, we look at how power and bias influence the information we see. Who creates the news, and why do they want us to believe certain things? In philosophy, we ask bigger questions like what is truth and what are the ethical responsibilities of sharing information. By thinking critically about media, we can become more informed consumers and contributors in our society. Now, there are other fields that we can look at as well. For example, phenomenology helps us focus on the individual's experience and perceptions of fake news, how it is interpreted in daily life, often creating confusion or distrust. Another field is affect theory, which helps to inform media studies as well. This examines the emotional manipulation involved. Fake news often evokes strong emotions like fear or anger, which contributes to its rapid spread. These emotional triggers are deliberately used to keep readers engaged and reactive. I just want to go into a little bit more detail about media studies, media systems, and fake news. To understand how fake news operates, we can actually turn to media studies, which explores the systems and structures that shape how information is produced, distributed, and consumed. In media studies, scholars look at how different types of media, from traditional news outlets to social media platforms, create and control the flow of information. One key figure in this field, as you may see in your reading, Marshall McLuhan, famously said, "The medium is the message." This means that the form of media, whether it's a newspaper, television, or social media, affects how we interpret the content. In the case of fake news, the rapid pace and virality of social media platforms make it easy for misinformation to spread before it's verified, influencing people's opinions almost instantly. Media studies also examines the power structures behind media. Scholars like Noam Chomsky have argued that major media outlets often serve corporate or governmental interests, shaping the way news is presented to align with specific agendas. Fake news plays into this by exploiting the weaknesses of digital platforms, where boundaries between factual reporting and opinion, or even fabrication, are often blurred. Moreover, media literacy is a central focus in media studies. How well we as individuals can critically analyze and interpret the information we consume. Fake news thrives in environments where media literacy is low because people are less equipped to recognize bias, manipulation, or outright falsehoods in the content that they encounter. This makes media studies essential for understanding the role of media in perpetuating fake news and information. So why does fake news matter so much? It's more than just misinformation. It has real-world consequences. Fake news can distort public opinion and harm democratic processes by swaying voters or manipulating public debates. It can create social divisions, fuel conspiracy theories, and in extreme cases, incite violence. Its ability to go viral through social media amplifies its reach and damage, making it a critical issue in modern society. Before we wrap up, here are a few critical questions I'd like to ask you. How can media literacy combat the spread of fake news? What role do emotions play in the consumption of fake news? In what ways should social media platforms be responsible for regulating fake news? These questions encourage us to think more deeply about our own relationship with media and the societal impact of the information we consume. Thank you for watching this demo lesson on media and society. Again, I'm Jessica, and I appreciate you watching today. I hope this session helped you understand the complexities of fake news and the critical role it plays in shaping both media and society. If you have any questions or thoughts, feel free to reach out. Thanks again.